On this channel, we don't really care how good a game was 30 years ago. We care if it's worth playing now. So we're giving every game on the Mega Drive Mini 15 minutes, whether I've played it before or not, to see if you should be playing it when you get your machine. This is part 2. If you missed part 1, might I direct your attention to the top right of the screen. For everyone else, we press on with Dynamite Heady. Well, this is a weird one. For me, Treasure were better known for their shooters like Radiant Silvergun and Ikaruga, both unforgiving bullet hell nightmares that were, with it, really damn fun. This, however, is the story of a guy with interchangeable exploding heads fighting across a lot of stages set literally on theatre stages in order to do a generic rescuing of all his mates. The head can be used for both transport and war. I don't actually know that much about it though. It took me my 15 minutes to get to the tutorial. In the end, I actually had to read up on it. This is even less forgiving than their shooters are. I played on a little to try the tutorial, and even then it proved quite tricky. I am literally that idiot Cuphead reviewer. Cuphead is a good shout here though. You get the sense that Cuphead with only a Mega Drive's power to play with would have had a lot in common with this game. It's a thing of stylistic beauty that in my 15 minutes I simply don't think I got far enough into. But I probably won't rush back. This is too hard for me. If you like your platformers clever and difficult though, you may well find something to love here. I mentioned in part 1 there's a couple of games where you might be able to get alternate region versions on the Mini, and this is another one it might help with. The Western version is apparently deliberately much harder than the Japanese one to stop people renting it and completing it, which might make it the better game in 2019. In the meantime though, for those of us with merely human video game skill looking for a slightly offbeat platform game, the gods of alphabetical ordering might well be about to provide. Earthworm Jim. For various licensing reasons, the run of Disney movie platformers such as Aladdin do not appear on the Mini. But the team that made Aladdin mostly left to form Shiny Entertainment, and pulled out this original franchise using the same animation techniques. And as such, it has the same fluidity of movement that few games of the time can even dream of matching. It is, though, also much harder than Aladdin, perhaps because of the lack of the need to cater to a Disney age group fanbase. The off-the-wall humour that made fleeting appearances in Aladdin is back with fairly major vengeance though, as is obvious very early on when you both get attacked by what I think is an annoyed Peter puppy, and then seconds later when you launch your first cow into orbit. This is no less hard, or less strange than Dynamite Heady, but it is at least always obvious what you're supposed to be doing more or less. At least until you get to the first boss, which is what ended my 15 minutes with the game. Given the choice between this and Heady, I'm going to recommend this, but I do have a nagging feeling that ultimately I might be suggesting the worst game. We do, however, have one last game left in our list of 3 offbeat platformers, and this next one is so offbeat I'm not sure it's technically a platformer. Echo the Dolphin. Or just Echo if you believe the title screen. So this is a sea exploration game where Echo is merrily playing around one day and then it all goes incredibly tits up. He's got echolocation for talking and getting a level map. A boost for killing dudes, eating dudes, and doing sick jumps. And a less useful swimming boost for chilling out. He's also got to watch his air. This is a game where you're permanently stuck in a Sonic the Hedgehog underwater level, and you know how much we all enjoy those. I spent 15 minutes exploring and was actually just getting stuck when I finished. I was also getting a little frustrated with the controls. I think in 2019 this game lives and dies on those controls, and unfortunately Echo is reminding me a little too much of my old nemesis Chomp from a recent Yesterzine. He's not easy to make do what you want to do, and that's a problem. Echo is something of a critical darling, and it's easy to see why. It was a genuinely new idea at the time, and it tries to do something that's between an RPG, puzzle adventure and a platformer. But it's not aged well, and whisper it, I'm not sure it was actually that good at the time. It's a shame, but perhaps this is one not to revisit in a hurry. Eternal Champions. I don't know Eternal Champions, but that title screen suggests we're either in for a rip-off of Mortal Kombat or a rip-off of Streets of Rage. The intro doesn't provide any useful clues on that score either, but to be honest, by the third screen of text I was starting to zone out a little. Okay, that settles it. This is so close to Mortal Kombat at this point that I want to use the phrase legally distinct. Listen to that music. It's basically Mortal Kombat themed chill remix. Nonetheless, we take a punt at the game. So far, so generic characters. Hang on, Blade. That Blade? Surely not. It turns out actually it really isn't, but I'm going to wheel out Legally Distinct again. We're several years before the now famous Blade film here, but I'm damned if that's not Wesley Snipes, except he looks like he occasionally pays tax. And playing the game is not good. It does take advantage of the 6-button controller, but that just gives you 3 extra buttons to largely ignore you as Blade wobbles about the screen like he's been stuck in solitary confinement for 6 months and hasn't trained. It's just a slow, generic, fairly awful 2D beat-em-up. Should you play it? Well, I'll tell you right now, Street Fighter 2 is on this thing, so hell no you should not. I actually looked it up. Somehow, Mean Machine Sega gave this 97%. Someone got absurdly overexcited. Generally, this is a 6 out of 10 game then, and it's not even close to that now. Moving on. Ghouls and Ghosts. Ghouls and Ghosts is an arcade compatriot of Altered Beast, and at the risk of spoiling the next 45 seconds or so, I hope only one of the 2 dev teams got paid money. It's a run and spear arcade game that in the first 30 seconds has more ideas thrown at you than an entire army of Altered Beasts. This probably shouldn't be a huge surprise. Capcom know their stuff, and unlike the other ports, this version was done by Yuji Naka, whose next game after this had a considerably more bluey, hedgehoggy tinge to it. Ghouls is an arcade game, and thus expect to make liberal use of the continue function. But even an idiot like me managed to get to the first boss in 15 minutes. The 2 hit point system is a nice touch, especially denoting it by Arthur's armour falling off, and the continue points are at least fairly forgiving. The emphasis does appear to be on figuring out your approach rather than constantly making you retread old ground. The game has 11 stages total, although that's mainly because the first 5 repeat, so there is some depth there. The only reason you might not want to go straight to this is it has been widely re-released elsewhere. This isn't even its first mini-console appearance, as it's also on Capcom's home arcade. That said, the versions for PlayStation and Xbox apparently have iffy emulation, and this port is spot on. The only review criticism at the time was the high price. Well, that's not an issue now. Stick this one on your list. Golden Axe. Golden Axe is a Sega arcade contemporary of Altered Beast, but with a more fantasy-style setting. The characters being generic Prince Hardbloke, Dwarf, and Girl pretty much bear that out, although there are differences between them in terms of magical ability and punch quotient. The Mega Drive one neatly expands on the arcade with 2 extra modes, both of which are brilliant. The beginner mode is actually a self-contained run through the first 3 stages of the game. For a mini-console like this, it's brilliant because you can complete it in a 10-minute go, and then it ranks you based on how many dudes you lost. I think going for a perfect run of this would be a decent challenge, for instance. The duel mode is a bit Street Fighter. You compete against a set wave of enemies on a strict time limit, and if you manage to do it, you compete again against harder ones. Another beautiful short game mode. Finally, the arcade itself is here and intact. It's not arcade perfect, but unless you've played the arcade recently, you're not going to notice that. The iconic soundtrack is here in full effect too. Golden Axe isn't perfect. Some of the positioning is difficult, especially affecting the animals, who can become almost game-breakingly tricky at times. Your route out of that, of course, is the magic, which is awesome when fully powered up. Although, having to stab what appears to be small children to get it is a little weird. Or a bonus, depending on your views, I guess. Golden Axe is just another reason to never ever Altered Beast. It's an arcade classic that retains much of its charm, and it's got a Mega Drive conversion done with thought and love. This is a definite must play on the machine. Gunstar Heroes. So remember Dynamite Headdy from about 5 minutes ago? This is Treasure's other platformy thing, but by the sound of it we might be in a Castlevania vs Contra situation. Dynamite was all about the melee, and this appears to very much involve gunning. The intro is again superb for the Mega Drive, and I'm very much enjoying that music, but we should actually get into playing. After being given quite a welcome choice of starting weapon, always pick the fire, and stage. Ooh, there really is a touch of the Contras about this, isn't there? There's a lot of very satisfying explosions and a lot of enemies about the screen. It's carnage from minute 1 in this game. Dynamite felt a little bullet hell at times, but this really does feel like the run and gun equivalent of something like Radiant Silvergun. I did about a stage and a half before noticing I'd blown my 15-minute time limit wide open, and in that time there was a lot of variety, with bosses ranging from this easy chap to this dual control robot who actively tried to find an angle to shoot me at. I ran, I can, and I even rode a modified minecart alongside a speeding train. Screw Dynamite Headdy, play this now, it's bloody ace. Kid Chameleon. Another Sega Technical Institute production like Comic Zone, but one I didn't know. Kid Chameleon is an adventure platformer that looks like a hell of a lot of platform games from the cool 90s. Think a 40-year-old's idea of what a skateboarder looked like. You expect someone to call something rad at any moment. Kid Chameleon is misleading. The first level or so is very pleasant, if generic. You've got gems to collect, you've got a generic looking power-up, and you've got breaky blocks to break to retrieve bonuses such as the above. If you stop there, and I suspect several unwitting people might on the Mini, you're going to miss out though. The first level suit allows you to climb walls. One you get at the start of level 2 allows hacking and slashing. This one from level 3 allows you to run face first into walls and enemies. This is a deceptively deep game. There's a total of 126 levels in the thing, and frequent hidden teleporters mean you can be thrown all over the bloody place if you're not careful. The complete map of the game with hidden levels and warps is a frighteningly huge document. The only question is, will the average owner want to sink the time into this to even find out the depth, much less see any decent proportion of the game? I suspect many won't and will just think, 90s platformer, and move on. More fool them. Landstalker. This, I don't know, but it looks to me like we've got another Zelda-style RPG here. Although, this intro is more of a 3D platformer. Look at his clothes though, it's like he's doing Link cosplay. Nigel. He's called Nigel. I mean, it's a perfectly nice name, but it's not one that conjures up hero into your head, is it? Friendly chap in the pub, yes. Local mechanic, yes. Hero, no. Incidentally, the reason we're spending so much time on this intro is it's helpfully entirely unskippable. Don't they know I've got a schedule to keep here? Ooh, that sea works like a magic eye picture. It took 5 minutes, 20 seconds until I was first allowed to make a control input. And then we have another issue. Up and left appear to do the same thing. I poked at this for ages, even reloading Gunstar Heroes to check my controller was okay. As I realised that mistake, sitting through the unskippable intro for a second time, I downloaded the manual, which told me Landstalker only works with diagonal control inputs, which is absolutely crazy. So we finally get to play some game, and it turns out it's more intro disguised as gameplay. For the next 5 minutes, all you're doing is opening chests for gold and livestock, which I assume to be another name for beef bisto. I realised when I got on this raft and turned out not to be in control again. So you land in a village, someone's blown up the bridge, I've given it 5 minutes extra to make up for one of those intros, but I've still not seen a single enemy and the most interaction I've had has been scattering books around the church. I'm stepping out of this one. No doubt many will be happy to see this on here. I just don't care anymore. We've had an excellent looking RPG already in Beyond Oasis, so Nigel can go take a running jump, assuming the game lets me control him for 2 seconds. Light Crusader. Ooh, treasure again. This is going to go one of 2 ways, isn't it? Well, that's the intro screen of a Zelda-like RPG if ever I saw one. Let's play. And on a scale of 1 to unskippable, how skippable do you think this intro is? While I was waiting, I read the Wikipedia page, and it says, not as good as Beyond Oasis, and it plays like Landstalker. Wonderful. At least I got control after 3 minutes this time. Wait, what? I can move people? Hey look, I'm tidying the people! There, that's much neater. Wait, the guards might not like this. Push him down the stairs, that'll solve it. That drop doesn't look like good health and safety, does it? Your parents are gone? Guards are your parents now! Hey look, he's digging the path. Cows? Oh, you bet I'm kidnapping those cows. And yeah, you can see where this is going. I spent 15 minutes going around town moving people. More seriously, I think I've talked to everyone. No mean feat when the game uses the attack button for talk and loves attacking, and I know nothing. You all know the answer here. Go play Beyond Oasis. And that's part 2. A real mixed bag, but a couple of very nice surprises. Our episode winner has to be Gunstar Heroes. It's immediate, it's visual, and it's a hell of a lot of fun. Then join me soon for part 3. Again, if you live far enough in the future, a link to do so is on your screen in 3, B, A... There we go. Doodles!